Feels like it's been ages since
I know,
we've
it's
just
really nice. It's really
sat with the
nice.
camera.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Welcome to another episode of The Bitch and the Lizard.
The bitch and the lizard, that's so good. We should have called ourselves that.
Oh.
Okay, so we are going to talk about boundaries, and we actually brought this up. We actually brought up this idea of this video a while ago, and we had a bit of feedback from people, about how they were struggling with their own boundaries. But we haven't really filmed anything recently because we're just doing our own. We've just been doing
Other things.
and there's some other big things happening, and. But yeah, it was tonight we were like, let's film about boundaries. And actually we're filming about boundaries because we've been doing lots of work on our boundaries, on our personal boundaries and our boundaries with each other. Mm-hmm. So we thought we would just talk through that, and then, you can take what you want from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we needed to put in place boundaries in our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been difficult because it's been challenging because we've actually confronted the existing paradigm of our cohabitation, of our relationship.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of difficult because we had a certain way of being, which was
Together all the time.
yeah, we were together 24/7.
Yeah, it's you go from the beginning,
Yeah.
and now we've been together for 6 and a bit years, and we're moving into a different phase. Just like all cycles, everything changes, everything cycles through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. But I think we got to a point, so at the beginning it was being together all the time was magic because we were falling in love and it was so exciting and we didn't want to be anywhere but in each other's company. And then after 5-6 years, that started to wear a bit thin where we're like, actually I can't, for me it was I can't give you all of my energy all the time. And for you it was I need certain things from you,
Yeah.
And
you remember that you're your own person, right?
Yeah.
That has their own needs. That
Yeah.
their needs and your needs aren't the same. You have your own needs.
Yeah.
So what are some of the boundaries we've been working on? Oh, you've got a list. So anyway, this is a good idea that we would suggest if you are struggling with boundaries in your own relationship. So boundaries for us, for instance, is that so we had some fights and everything, and we were like, oh, what's happening here? And we're not respecting each other's boundaries, and maybe that was because we don't understand each other's boundaries. So the reason why I think boundaries are so important is because we tend to assume that everyone knows what we need.
Yeah, that was actually a really big thing for me, is that,
Yeah.
and I've talked about
Without
this,
communicating it.
I've talked about this recently on a podcast that I'm recording.
Yep.
I expected everyone, including you, to know when I wanted you to leave me alone.
Yeah, when you wanted space.
And to know what was going on in my head, so to know that I was overwhelmed or tired or whatever.
Yeah.
So communication is number one is well, just communicate what you need.
That's why boundaries are such an important part of what's happening now, because we need to learn how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the biggest contributor of breakdowns in relationships is communication.
Mm-hmm.
And boundaries is it's really important. That's a very important thing to put down. So we took a time when we weren't angry or moody or explosive with each other, and we sat down and we said, okay, what are some boundaries that we want to put in place with each other? And our boundaries are really around space and time. So Josh's boundaries that he needs to not be here. He needs to, and I think this is the wild masculine, right? I actually think that it might be quite stereotypical, but I think the divine wild masculine is being able to soar, being able to run free into the bush, wild, and that can also translate in this day and age as alone time.
Yeah, for sure. Because if I can't get out into the bush and howl at the moon, then it might mean just be I need to be in the garden on my own, or be in my studio on my own, and just sort of soak up that masculine energy, which is a little bit more kind of intense,
manic.
And a little bit more manic.
Yeah. So that was a really important boundary.
Yeah.
And then also another one that I needed is that energy, right? Energy, you need to put up boundaries with energy. So when Josh is in that space, his energy can be a bit manic, which is beautiful. It's shine-like energy. It's creative energy. But my boundary was that I actually needed space from Josh when he was like that. So when he does feel that, and that tie in, right? You can't just force each other to be together all the time. it's just not healthy. When he's feeling that creative energy and it becomes manic, he needs his space and I actually need space from him, yeah? But this is just about putting what you're feeling into words and communicating, okay, what do I actually need from you? What do I want from you? That's why boundaries are so important. I'm going to keep saying this the whole video.
And you start to see how respecting each other's boundaries works for both of you. So like the first boundary is for me, I need space. And then you're like, oh, actually, I need space from you when you are in a manic state and or whatever it might be. And even like honoring each other's boundaries is like, oh, you're going to get a better person because of that, because you're giving them space to
I'm not going to resent you.
No.
I'm not going to resent you. I'm not going to snap at you. I'm not going to be moody at you. This is probably why most couples will argue, because we're not allowing each other to give boundaries. But when you put your boundaries in as well, it allows you to know, oh, this is what I want and this is what I don't want, and it allows you to know yourself better, which allows you to navigate the relationship better.
And just repeating what you said, that like we have different needs.
Yeah.
That's a really important thing that you said, is like we each have different needs, and if we don't communicate them, we're just going to assume that the other person has the same needs as us, which they don't.
Yes.
They're a different human being. They have different needs.
Different trauma.
Yeah. You know, for sure.
Yeah.
Different attachment styles.
Yeah,
So
different attachment styles. That's
been really important as well, but we can go into that in another
and
episode.
that's it though as well. Like our trauma and stuff and all this sort of stuff will define us as well. But that's why boundaries are important, because it's like, okay, we're going to have our own trauma. We're raised our own ways. I might have abandonment issues, so I'm going to want you to be with me all the time. And when you leave me, I'm going to take that as it's going to trigger me. But that's why your boundaries are so important, because that's what you're setting out, you know, and it allows you to get to know yourself better. Boundaries are, I will say it again and again, because I've realised in this last month how important boundaries are. They are a sign of self-love, you know? They are you with self-love.
That is it, man.
And then there's other really funny
That is it.
So Josh, his boundaries really focus on being alone, you know?
I need to be alone.
He needs to be alone a lot more than I do, you know? And that's okay. And my boundaries, my last one there is Hannah needs Josh to put things away when he's done using them. So that's like boundaries, you know what I mean? Because it's all about like, hey, when you come into the kitchen and you make something, and I'm grateful for you making something for me, but I come into the kitchen and it's like, oh, that makes me feel like I'm not being, there's something's not being respected or you know what I mean? That's boundaries. Usually someone will just go in there and yell at each other and you have a fight. Boundaries are, they're amazing. They're the thing that matters.
Yeah.
So that's how this is our boundaries like that in a relationship. But the other boundaries we've been working on recently, we both quit our jobs recently. We're still working them, but we've got a week and a half left. But this job has been a huge, huge lesson in my own personal boundaries. What this job has taught me is that I am the yes girl. I give and I give and I give because I enjoy being liked by everyone. Who doesn't? But I really enjoy being liked by everyone. And what really stood out for me the last week is that when I said I'd quit, I had a gentleman that came in who said to me, "Oh, we're so sad you're leaving, Hannah. You're so good. You do everything for us and nothing's ever too much for you and you're always there to help." And that was like a real trigger for me, because I realised, I'm always, especially at work, and that's probably why I take more when I'm not at work. You know, this is why boundaries are important as well. You've got to realise where you're giving too much and then taking too much, you know?
That's a really...
because I give too much at work and then I take too much at home, you know? That's why boundaries are, this is how you start to know yourself better. So what I realised at work, and my boundaries at work are just, they're still in the beginning stages because I'm really getting angry. I'm not being able to put my boundaries out in a calm manner. They come out in a screaming, "I'm eating my lunch," you know what I mean? Because, I'm working through some stuff and that's okay as well. But I guess boundaries at work are a real thing. It's like we've been really taught to never say no at work, to be very much like, "Oh, thank you, we're so gracious for everything you provide us." But if we don't put our boundaries in, we tend to get walked all over. And then you just have resentment and bitterness. And actually you end up not doing your job well because you're giving too much. So this has been the biggest boundary setting for me at work, allowing yourself to say no in a kind way. Like, "Hey, Hannah, can you help me out now?" "No. I'm busy doing something else," or "I'm busy eating my lunch. I will help you in an hour." "Will you work overtime?" This is a big one, you know what I mean? "No. I won't work. I'm not working overtime.
I won't be doing that.
No, I'm tired and I need my time to regenerate for work, Boundary setting is really about understanding what you need, what you're negating, and then being really honest.
Yeah. Really honest. And if I could just expand on what you were saying as well, it's not just about work, it's about friends and family and everyone around you who has probably come to expect a certain amount of like time from you, whatever energy from you. And we are conditioned in this society to please, like we are conditioned to
say yes.
Yeah, to say yes, essentially. So you're going to have to put up boundaries with like those people, with family and friends, and say like, no, I'm not going to do that dinner. No, I'm not coming to that event, or whatever it might be. Or just recognizing your own energy is depleted and being like, that thing that I said I would go to, I can no longer do because I'm exhausted. It's like you're taking back your power and you are fully respecting yourself and your own needs. And like,
that's all there is.
That's really all. I mean, that's the most important thing you can do is like love yourself and respect your own needs. But it's not easy. That's what I wanted to say, is that like putting boundaries in place with people that you have previously just sort of catered to is uncomfortable work because you're not used to doing it. And just like you were saying about how you kind of like snapped at people.
Yeah.
It's because we've been pleasing for so long and saying yes for so long and suppressing the no.
Suppressing us and
what we need. So there's a lot of rage in there at like just being the good girl or the good boy. And now it's like, no, I'm going to start saying no. But initially,
it brings up some anger.
It's like, okay, so I have some anger there. So I'm like, when I say no, I might be quite forceful because I'm saying there's a lifetime of no's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I am giving to,
but allow that
you.
anger.
So, but you have to just absolutely just allow it and be like, okay, that's why this is coming up.
Yep.
And I know that the more I practice saying no, the easier it will become, and it will be more of a like,
it will. And I also think another thing when you're setting boundaries, what's really going to come up is this idea that you're selfish. I'm so selfish. This is all things we've been conditioned to think, you know what I mean? If you put yourself first, you are selfish. It is not selfish to put yourself first. How can you be of help or aid to anyone else if you are pouring from an empty cup? It's these old cliches, but they're around because they're true.
Yeah.
And saying to a friend or a family member, there's always love there, and saying, I can't come to this tonight. I am depleted. I'm tired. I'm feeling social anxiety that I'm working through. Always being honest, coming from the heart with your boundaries. No one's ever going to be shitty. And if they are shitty, don't take it personal. It's their own thing. And I guarantee you what it is it's their own inability to put themselves first. It's their own inability to say to people, no, I'm taking care of me. And that's not yours to wear. You just say, okay, that's what boundaries is going to teach you. It's going to teach you what you need, what you don't want, but also to stand up for yourself and to be okay with not being liked in moments. It's okay. As long as you like yourself, yeah?
And you're going to like yourself a hell of a lot more if you're actually taking care of yourself.
Yeah, because it's a way you show yourself, hey, you know, I love you.
Yeah, it's an act of love.
So I guess the main thing where boundaries are really going to come up and where you're going to have to practice them and where they're always going to be uncomfortable, boundaries are always going to be uncomfortable, is in personal, intimate relationships, yeah? So with your partner. I think a really good idea is to write them out and do that when you're calm and you sit down.
Yeah, and even like what we did sort of just intuitively was like one each. So you just take it in turns, like go through and listen and hold space for that need. And like we said, you're going to have different needs. So you might not understand it, but it's just accepting it in the other. You know what I mean? You might be like, oh, you need space? I don't need that. But okay, I respect that is what you need.
And their boundary doesn't reflect you. It's what they need. They need space from you. It doesn't reflect you. Oh, God, you know. I mean, I am intense, but that doesn't reflect me. It reflects his need to have space. So within personal relationships, friends and family, it's a really big one. Friends and family. I mean, family's a really big one, and family's going to be really fucking hard and uncomfortable. But it's very, very, very important for relationships to be close and honest and vulnerable and loving. You need to be able to say to the people closest to you, I love you, but I can't give you this at the moment. You know what I mean? And work. And they're all uncomfortable ones. But they all kind of fit under the same umbrella because it's all about wanting to be liked, wanting to be pleasing, and wanting to be good, and righteous, and but it's really important work, and it's just going to allow you to be a better friend, a better family member, a better worker. And also your boundary settings will make other people uncomfortable, like I said before, but that's only because they're not comfortable in knowing who they are and setting boundaries. So just practice, practice in the mirror.
Practice, yeah.
Yeah.
Practice saying no.
Practice saying no.
And
no's a sexy
practice
word.
listening to your own needs as well, because you're only going to know what you need when you take time with yourself and say, why am I triggered by this? Why do I get angry with this? Then you're going to understand where those needs are coming from, and then you're going to be able to express them more clearly.
Yeah, as they say, anger is usually a need not being met. And I have a lot of anger at work. I always have, deep rage. And sitting with that over the last few months and saying, why am I so angry, made me realise, because you're giving too much. And you're never, ever saying, no, 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 And everyone loves me at work. Everyone adores me. But so who cares? I've got 89 strangers that love me, and I don't like myself very much. It's pointless.
Yeah. We love the giver.
We love the giver.
Ultimately, and that's why we keep giving.
Yeah.
Is because we're like, oh, people like it when I constantly give them,
we love them.
Time and attention and energy.
Yeah.
And it feels uncomfortable to change that pattern.
It's going to feel really uncomfortable, but always remember, in moments of deep discomfort, this is where growth happens, right? Change can only happen in movement.
Yeah.
And that's what discomfort is. When you are uncomfortable, you are growing. You know what I mean? You are growing, just like a caterpillar that comes out of their cocoon. That is not an easy, painless process, but they are moving, they are growing, they are changing. And that's what discomfort is. Keep your eye on the prize.
Yeah. If you're uncomfortable, you're doing well.
You're doing well. There was one other thing I wanted to say, but I forgot. So it's clearly not important.
I think we covered it.
Yeah.
I mean, we covered there's more, obviously. You could probably read
you could talk about
read a
ages.
whole book on boundaries, and there are going to be more examples of boundaries that you can set as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's a boundary for me, for you to speak to me like that, you know what I mean? Or to bring that up, or whatever it might be. So there can be more specific. But I think just in terms of like saying no, looking after your own needs, and
always coming back to being honest.
Yeah.
That's whatever boundary whatever you're processing. We had a lot of people talk about work events, family obligations and friends, and saying no to that. So just remember, what do you need in this moment? You need more space.
You
need more rest. Yeah. What do I need? And just communicate that to the person. I need more rest. I'm tired. I need more me time, And 9 out of 10 times, these people that love you are not going to resent you. They're going to respect you, for it. The last thing I was going to say is that on one side you have the narcissist, that takes, that's very, very selfish. But on the other side you have the giver. But these are this is what Josh's friend Alex was talking to me about before at the beach. But they're the two opposites, but neither of them are better than the other. The narcissist that takes everything is not good, but the giver that gives everything is also not good. You find a balance point, right?
Yep.
That's what you do. You find a balance point. The more you say no, the more you're able to say yes.
Yeah.
It's the balance.
To the right things as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we hope you enjoyed. If you have any specific questions, just comment down below.
Yeah,
Don't forget, share this video, subscribe, share it with your mates. We've got a week and a half of work left, and then we're going to, be putting up some cool content. And
yeah, we'll be sharing more.
From the bitch and the lizard.
From these bitches, lizards.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.